So one thing about this shell was that it was at one point a targa top. I don't know where the targa top part is for it, but the one thing I've wanted to do for a while now is put a new roof on it so it can be back to normal again and at least sit outside without a tarp on it. So far all I've done is pull all the trim pieces. I just need to pull this piece off. But yeah, they did a decent job at it. The only issue is they pulled the windows when they did it, and I don't want to have to pull the windows if I don't have to, so I have to figure out a way to weld in there. But first things first is just to cut the roof to the correct size, which is going to be real fun because there's a curve in it, but everything seems to be about 2.5 inches, and then it jouts out to about 3 inches here. So I basically just traced out rough measurements over there. It's gonna be cut bigger and then test fit like 100 times and just keep cutting it smaller till it fits into place. Hopefully I don't end up cutting too much off and have to screw around with it. But that's basically the worst part of this whole shell, really. I don't know if you can see it, but I basically just traced out what the line will roughly be, but it's going to be cut short, so I'll end up trimming it even farther back once the cut's done. And then as for the back, it seems to be right about here and then straight across, so that one shouldn't be too bad if I can find a straight edge to just mark that out. Alright, I think I have my line now. It's probably a lot closer than I'd like, but I'm going to cut on obviously the far side and make it as big as possible. But it seems that this glass line there's no seal on here anymore, obviously. So I basically just went farther back a little bit. But it looks like the way that the other one was cut was right on where the glass goes down. And you can see there's still a little bit of this, like a little bow part that comes out from where the roof was. There's still some of that on the car, so I figure if I cut all the way over on it, it should be a little bit extra. And then the front I'll cut afterwards, but I figured I'd just get this side out of the way. Hopefully just one cut's good enough for this. After a lot of trimming, starting to get it close. Some parts it's like dead perfect, and some parts it still need a little bit of trimming. The rear piece is still a little long. I'm going to leave that alone until it actually falls right down into place. But everything's lining up so far. All the little holes for that trim piece line up perfectly right now. I just need to get it to fall a little bit better into place. So just a little bit of trimming here and there. It just takes a lot of time. In the meantime though, Izzy started stitch welding some of the bay. It's not bad for a first time welding. I just kind of gave her the welder and let her do all that part. And then we ran out of wire on this side, so I went out and got new wire because obviously I'm going to need some for this. But yeah, it's just little parts like that, just a little bit more off, and it'll probably slide right into place. I'd say this came out as tight as it possibly could for this side. This side's pretty good. Could have been better. But the issue I found is the roof is a different level right here. And I think it's because they put a bar in this and then body filled it, as you can see a little bit right there. So I think once I grind that down, I just make everything pretty decently the same. But for the most part, the roof is lined up back here now. There's no way to hold up the front of the roof though, and honestly it's getting pretty late right now, so tomorrow or later in the week or next weekend I will find my magnets and see what I can do about the front. I'm not going to grind down all this and see what's under here just yet. I'm going to wait until I'm ready to weld before I do all that and get some weld through primer. I have a feeling that if I do the magnet, get some tacks on it, and then maybe put some metal underneath it, because I did cut the support brace piece off, which wasn't the best idea, but it gives me room to weld on both sides of it now, and then I'll just put the support brace back on, because luckily when they cut it, they kept most of the actual support piece of the original roof. Same with back here. Like, there's that bar that I was talking about, so I can just tie that back into that bar.
The next day.
I'm not filming a whole lot, but there's the roof. The roof is welded up under there, and just some body filler to tie into the body fill that was already there, but I'll smooth it out and make it look half decent. It wasn't too bad. There's a couple spots that are a little ugly, but stuff like in here is going to be hidden. And in here, it's mainly like right here that's like where you see the most, and of course right in the middle of the roof. So I built that really high with some Bondo, and I'll knock it all down as smooth as possible with the sander. Back here is pretty good though. Everything was pretty smooth. But I tied that brace into the brace that they put in there, which actually was tied into the original brace. And then I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna tie that brace into that one. And honestly, it's like rock solid. It is legitimately part of the car again. So it's good enough for me. Good enough for this car, really. This car's turned into a bit more work than I wanted it to be, but I knew there was no roof when I bought it, so. The first real skim coat kind of knocked down. It's actually pretty good already. Primer it all really thick. Probably go over it again a little bit. But yeah, it's actually looks like it has a roof again. So this is where I'm at with the engine bay. I wanted to get wide fenders that went as far as to the edge of the frame rail here. But what I didn't really realize when I did that was that they actually go out, because the shock tower has a bit of an angle. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I'll probably keep with it how it is and just cap that off somehow. I'll make it try to look half decent, but I like how this sits so far. I've got it propped up on stuff, but it's sitting pretty level to where I want it across there, so I can just box everything in with sheet metal and everything. I should be able to just slide some sheet metal right behind that lip and just tack it all in all the way around, make it look half decent. And that's the plan for this side too. I'm gonna try to trace as close as that as I can, but just on the opposite side, and see what happens. Because it's kind of weird. It kind of comes out and then goes in a little bit here, and then comes back out over here. So it took me a little while to get the curve, and honestly it's not going to be pretty, or it's not going to be perfect either way, but my goal is to just basically have tubs in it again, so shit doesn't fly up in the engine bay everywhere when I do drive it in anything besides perfect condition. So, and honestly it will bring some rigidity back to the car, so. For the first quick cut, that wasn't too bad. I did cut it big though, and I'm gonna have to pull that harness out of the way because it's right in my way, but I did cut it a little big though, so that way I could just use the grind disc and just pretty it up and knock it back until it's the same as that one. I've already traced out 2 pieces out of what's left of this sheet metal, so I'm hoping that once I cut those, they'll just fit inside those, and a couple tacks and it'll be a full wheel weld. Yeah, this side's almost ready. I cut a little more out because I didn't see the point of having that long piece just hanging in there when the whole thing's going to be tubbed anyways. Not that it would ever rub on a tire or anything, I just figured I might as well get it out of the way. I'll leave all this in here, obviously, for some bracing. But yeah, and the next time you see it, it'll have the tub at least tacked in at the top there. I got some weld-through primer still, so I can at least do all that and then prime all in there. And eventually, when everything's done, I'll undercoat the inside in there so it just has more protection on it, because there is parts that are starting to rust a little bit. So this shell's in pretty decent shape compared to a lot of 240s, so it'd be really nice to preserve what I can with it. Just like that. It's taken me an entire roof swap to get this welder set up the way that I like it. But there, that's one hanging in there. And tack the other one in it, and then it's just a matter of, like I said, using sheet metal to fill in the gaps. I'm not sure what I'm going to do back there yet, but I'm not too concerned about how perfect it looks. It already looks way better than just a gaping hole, so just like that, there's the engine bay ready for its LS. I ran out of paint again over here, but it's all primed and everything, and it's not that big of a deal. I mainly wanted to get down in there where I wouldn't be able to paint when the motor's in there. So yeah, there's both tubs in there. And everything else should be just ready to go. I'll take the crash bar off, and probably have to jack up the car a little bit to get the LS in there, but shouldn't be too bad, hopefully. But yeah, moving on to putting the motor in, I guess. Oh, and when you're out of paint, you just yeet it over the Subaru. It'll be fine.